Hi, this is David Phelps, and you're listening to Awakened Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people just like you and me from all over who are doing amazing things to Awakened Nation. Hey everybody! I have a good friend on today that I met. How long ago did we meet?
You know, I was thinking about that. I think it's been over a decade. I think it was around
Absolutely.
2014-ish. Was as I was thinking back where we first. I remember I walked in. We were in Vegas, and I
Oh
walked in.
yeah.
In that hotel, and I was meeting you and other people, and I was immediately attracted to you, not from a bro standpoint, but but you were, I could tell right away that you were a deep thinker,
Yeah.
and in a humble way, but that's where we connected first, and we've kind of stayed connected.
Yeah.
You came down to Dallas, it's a few years after that, and did a great keynote for my tribe,
Thank you.
and then we just kind of like drifted. I'm glad we're back.
Yeah. I'm trying to track, and I think it's through Tony Rubleski, Dave Brown, Dave Sheffield, Ben Gay the third. That I think that's the tracking of
Jim Palmer, Jim
Jim
Palmer.
Palmer.
Yeah,
Yeah, Vegas. That's right. Yeah. Oh my God. You know how long ago that was?
that's taking us back, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. God bless. What a journey we've both had.
Hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a real treat today because I have Dr. David Phelps on the show. He's become a good friend, and he mentioned this keynote that I did down in Texas. We won't say many moons ago. We're getting a little older, a little wiser. But the reason I wanted you on the show is, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get some knowledge here from someone who realized the trajectory in their life wasn't going to lead to where they wanted it to be. And a crisis forced him out of his consciousness and awakened him. And we were talking about that in the green room before we started. But get you a pen and paper because Dr. David Phelps is the real deal when it comes to shifting consciousness and realizing, oh my goodness, I'm going to be working my tail off till the day I die, right? Right, David? Was that
Yeah.
sort of the wake up call?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I've never was never about not being willing to work hard, and I'm sure everybody listening to the show today is like, well, yeah, I get working hard, and we're supposed to do that. It's supposed to be our character, our work ethic. We're all hard workers and drivers. We want to do well. We want to quote succeed in life, and whatever that means to people, and go through our academic uh, trainings, whatever that might be. Have a family and provide stability and security, and live the good life, right? And take that on through the decades. And we all set out to do that. And yet, funny thing is, life will bring twists and turns out of the blue that will upset these best laid plans. It just happens. And if you lived any period of time in your life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whether it's happened to
Yeah.
you, it's happened to somebody you know well, somebody in your family. There's something that's disruptive. And so for me, it wasn't about really feeling angst about I was going to get somewhere, but it was really a call to arms for me regarding where I was putting my time and emphasis while I was in a career mode, building a dental practice and in also a family at the same time. And it's the call to arms came when my daughter Jenna, my only child really because when she was only 2.5 years old, she was diagnosed with high risk leukemia. Well, that was the first upset of the apple cart. That's
Yeah.
3 years of I just tell people it's hell on earth for the child, for the parents, and frankly, Brad, the marriage to her mom, who's a wonderful lady, and just was her guardian angel, getting through all the trauma that Jenna went through. Our marriage
Yeah.
didn't make it. So that's
Right.
another stab wound. You have a child that's sick, and your marriage doesn't make it. Another stab there, and yeah, you start to go, well, what is this about? Now, did I do anything wrong? Well, I
Hmm.
could always say I could do some things better, but did I do anything actually wrong? No,
Right.
just part of life. And it was when Jenna was a few years later, she was in end stage liver failure. So, here we go again. And
Wow.
that's when I'm down in Houston. I live in the Dallas area. Houston's where the transplant occurred. So she was graced to get a transplant. I don't want to skip over that. People that donate organs, God bless you, because people live lives because of the willingness of
Yeah.
people. to donate. So she got a liver from another child, and it's while I was there in that hospital, just watching her recover. And I thought, she's been through leukemia. She had epileptic seizures for another 4 years, and now this liver transplant. She's 12 years old. Am I going to get another chance as a dad? And I had to
Okay.
really reflect on that. And so that became, well, really, we were talking about, a book I recently wrote that is, how much is enough? Well, how much is enough for what specifically? To retire forever? Well, that could be. But
Right.
for me at that time, I wasn't, I was in my 40s. I'm not ready to retire. But what I needed, Brad, is I needed time. I needed time. So how could I figure out how I could buy back time then for some period of time to spend with my daughter, and then work back into whatever my flow was going to be after that. So I call it my moment of truth, my call to arms. And I think it's a benefit for everybody, wherever they are on their track of life, career, family, not to have a moment like that, but to to be discerning about, well, where am I on my track, and what am I
Mhm.
working so hard for?
Yeah. That is the number one question. And a lot of people, they don't wake up to that truth until they are in their 40s and they go, wait a minute, I'm going to be retiring in 20 years or at least 25. What's going on? And in case you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. David Phelps is North America's leading authority in creating freedom for professional practice owners. And you can go to www.freedomfounders.com or www.drphelps.com. Let's continue because this is fascinating to me because you were dabbling in real estate while you were in dental school, and you started to realize that your your side hustle was making a little bit more money, and that eventually led to Freedom Founders. Let's talk about that because I was so impressed with the caliber of people you attract to your tribe in order to build just a phenomenal group of investors that not only grow their wealth but realize they created freedom for themselves. And that's really what this is about. It's not about getting rich. It's about
Right.
making enough monthly income, cash flow. For those of you listening about retirement, how much do you save? No, it's about cash flow. It was about the freedom to enjoy life. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, the community, which is just happened organically, and I'll back into the story in a second here, Brad. But the community that organically came about after I exited the practice, and I could have gone back. I could have gone back to do dentistry, but I didn't because this new calling came about when I had colleagues, just a few. I'm talking about a handful. I wasn't promoting anything, and my life was
Right.
still very much David Phelps, the a dentist in a community. That was it. And yeah, I had a
Right.
few people that would say, "Well, David, I understand why you would make this move to leave dentistry. You sold your practice. I mean, so the question wasn't, well, why did you do it? Your daughter, obviously, but how could you do that? You know,
Right. Right.
did you are you a trust fund benefactor or something we don't know? I mean, what's this? What, I mean, I'd
Yeah.
want to know too. What's the secret? And I said that's what I would tell that small few handful of people that I was building on the side. I call it a plan B. And I just did it in real estate. You could do it in lots of
Yeah.
ways, but real estate just made sense to me. So the Freedom Founders became, over a few years, a community, as you described it, of people that are very like-minded, very high caliber, hardworking, good people, ethical people, I'd say of faith, for sure. And but they're all seeking something more, and I think doing it as a community is something that's different than just trying to find your basic advisors in life and say, well, could you help me put together? I think we all seek and want to be part of something, right? Something. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how we met each other. We were part of something,
Right.
right? Someone else was leading, and we were part of something. But as you mentioned, dabbling in real estate. Yeah, it was definitely dabbling out of the gate because the first property that I acquired with the help of my father, who provided the financing, I had nothing to offer. I was in my first year of dental school. I've got student loan debt. I don't have any
Right.
ability, but I read books back in college. About investing money, and I read books about financial markets and mutual funds, which just were coming out back then. That kind of dates me a
Yeah.
little. And I read books about real estate, and the real estate just being a tangible hard asset. I'm very biased. I want, and look, anybody who has a business or professional practice like my people, well, that's a tangible hard asset. And why
Right.
why why do we like that? Because we have some level of control, right? Well,
Yes.
same thing with real estate. I have some control. Now, with control comes responsibility. Management comes with complexities that a lot of people don't want. So you have to
Right.
understand what it is that you really want in life and how much do you want to be on the forefront. So the dabbling in real estate was an eye opener to me. I'll just give you the example of that first property that my dad helped me acquire. I was the manager. My dad lived 2 states away, so he's not involved in any of the mechanics. He just made it possible. So now I'm this young guy, and I'm figuring out, how do what do you do? Go through the process of renting a property and applications and having a lease agreement and connecting with a local attorney. And this is my first real exposure to like the real business world because I was still a student. I hadn't done anything in business. I
Right.
had done nothing. And so after 4 years of managing that property, my dad and I we split profits. I covered all the management. Put my time into it. He got his money paid back, but we split a capital gains profit of about $50,000.
Yeah.
You can say, well, is that lucky? No, there's part of it that we did some things right, but that's what worked out. And when I looked at my half, and I went back and looked at the number of hours, days that I waited tables. That's what I did through school. I waited tables through college and dental school because it was a great
Hmm.
gig. I made good money
Yeah.
back then and flexible hours. But I realized that the time that I put in, this is key, the time I put in, acquiring, setting up this property, this asset, this capital asset, to then run, basically me overseeing the management. I had 2 tenants in 4 years. Not a big deal, right? So
Right.
pretty much getting checks in the mail on that property, and then coming up with $25,000. When I looked at the amount of time I put into quote acquiring and managing that capital asset versus the time I put in waiting tables, which I call trading time for dollars, and we all have to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was about a 10x on my time with the capital asset. So bingo, the lights go off, and I'm going, huh, why don't I do some more of this? All right. And
Yeah. I agree.
along with me being a dentist, because that's what I went to school for. So I'm not going
Yeah.
to throw that out the window. I'm still going to go do that. But I'm also going to do this other thing on the side. And I didn't know where it would go. I didn't have a game plan. I wasn't trying to exit my 40s. None of that, Brad. It just worked out that way.
Wow. You remind me of this story. And anybody who's listening, the reason we bring up these stories is so you can take notes for your own life. I remember in probably the late 80s, early 90s, I was working at a studio in New York City doing these big corporate events. And right next to me was this airbrush artist. He was really just like calm as a cucumber, and he owned his apartment in Manhattan. And I thought to myself, how does this dude, we're in our late 20s, early 30s, a lot of us mid 30s, a couple of the guys in the studio were in their 40s. They didn't own real estate, the older guys, and this young guy did. And I asked myself, how in the heck did he do that? Because although we made good money as freelance production people, I asked him one day, how in the heck did you do that? And he said, oh, my brother and I decided when we were like early 20s to get into real estate.
Mm.
And so I think if you have good family members and you have good communication skills, and one of you may have a little bit more money or whatever, you can pull that together and commit to building maybe not an empire, but at least start with a rental property, something that creates cash flow, and devote yourself to learning for the first 5 to 10 years. Am I right on that, David?
Yeah, well, 100%. Again, as I said, there's different ways to do it. I'd say people that, are further along in life, like some of my docs that found out that I left dentistry and how I did it, they wouldn't want to go back and do it the way I did it because I did it when I had more time than money. But yes, I think the benefits of getting committed and particularly doing it, whatever the thing is, with somebody else. I say I have this kind of four quadrants. I talk about the art of the deal, and part of this. Well, someone's got to find the opportunity, right? So
Right.
that could be a hustler, or you got a network, or people. So you're a finder. You find opportunities. Then someone has to like negotiate, close, put structure around it. Make sure, okay, if it's an opportunity, well, how do we make it sure it's a good opportunity? So you structure
Right.
it and put it together. Somebody has to bring in capital to fund this acquisition, whatever you're doing, right? And then finally, someone has to manage it to the end state. So there's four
Right.
pieces of this. You don't have to do all four.
Right.
You don't have to, and I didn't. Obviously, when I did my first property, I was part of the finder side. I certainly was the manager, and I, was part of the negotiation to close the deal. But didn't fund a dime. Okay, so that.
Yeah, yeah,
But today, where I am now, I'm on the side where I like to fund other people's opportunities because I look for other people who are out there hustling. They find the
right.
opportunities because I value my time, so I can give back in that way and do what my dad did for me 40 years ago and do that for other people. And so understand wherever you are in life there's a place for you to plug in with whatever
Yeah.
you want to do.
I find this fascinating because I wish I had known this when I was younger, and that is, um, I don't have all the skills to create a success empire by myself. I mean, it can, and if I'm doing the right work in certain areas, but when it comes to other things, I started to realize over the years that if you have a business partner, the one thing is you cannot have the exact same skill sets. I'm holding my fingers up. Your skill sets have to overlap.
Yeah.
When I started K2 back in the day, Doug had a very different skill set than me. He specialized in print production, things like that. I did meetings, but where we didn't have that overlap, where that was our overlap, was levels of design. But there were two levels that I brought to the table and two he brought to the table. And mine was I could do the books. I knew how to do the books and the accounting. I also knew how to pitch really large business. He
Hmm.
hadn't done that yet, so I was teaching him my methods and he was teaching me how to do print runs, how to do a budget for print and things like that. So this overlap and the dynamic tension that we had, and this has to be present, I hate to say it. Doug and I argued
Yeah.
like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this was what created an incredibly sustainable company, and that was this. Our passion for the product we were creating was paramount to any arguments we were having. We were trying to always one up each other. And we stopped arguing with each other when we had people to manage. I hate to say it, because now we weren't looking at each other going, "You didn't
Right.
do that right," or "You should have tried the." Now we were able to manage a staff, but it was that passion and that dynamic tension that was in our relationship because we were friends since college. And so, you learn more about each other in two areas, either your roommates or your business partners. And that's when you learn stuff about people you don't really want to know.
That's so
But
true.
we're still friends to this day, thank God, thank the good Lord above, because we could have killed each other. Do you find that's true? A lot of times when you attract business partners, you want people to work with you to do and build this empire you want to create.
I think it's the same way we choose our mates.
Yeah.
There's something in the people we choose to marry, be a partner with, that we don't have.
Right.
This is my very low level psychology, Brad. That's not my forte, but I've witnessed
Yeah.
anecdotally that this is how it usually happens. That there's something about the other person that we aspire to. They bring something to the table for us that frankly, it's just not part of our genre. So same thing. Yes, in business, same thing. You do want people to bring complementary skill sets, perspectives, and you're right. I like all of us when we start out in any kind of business, we start out. Yes, you said like maybe one other person, or you could be a staff person. But I love having a team, a leadership team that they know that we can discuss the undiscussables. In other words, you bring it up. You don't hide anything, and we're not, and we're respectful. But I want people to come to the table, whether it's my partner or my leadership team. And when I have some of my crazy ideas, they're not crazy. Sometimes it's just about timing, right?
Yeah.
I'm a guy. I want to do everything. Like as soon as my ideas pop in my head, it's like I'm gonna go run with that. Of course, that's foolish. So what do? I take my idea to my team. I don't shove it down their throat and go, "We're doing this." I say, "Hey, I've got this idea," and even if it's not the right time or the idea typically is not fleshed out because it never is, it's like
Yeah.
they will be the ones to help refine it. And I say, I want the pushback. I go to my wife Candace and I say, "Hey." She's very, very smart, and I don't want her in the business per se. I like some separate lives, but she's from as far as a board of advisors. I can go to her with
Right.
large constructs and say, "Hey, I'm kind of looking at this, dealing with this. What do you think?" And I want her to push back on me because I may think, well, I see it this way, and I'm feeling pretty convicted about it. But I want that person I can trust. They're just going to tell me the truth, and there's no disrespect, there's no argument. And I'll still make, in my case, I'll still make the final decision, but I take certainly countenance of what other people bring. In the marriage, I never have the final call. It's always her. So just I want to
Right.
make sure we clarify that for gentlemen who think you can pull it off in the marriage. Don't try that.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't figured out, David's mind works super fast, and because he talks super fast, you can hear it. So you come up with ideas a mile a minute. When I was at your Freedom Founders event, this is what impressed me. You could have had me come in for one day and fly out and all that, but you had me stay for 4 days. And the reason was you do a mastermind uh, group. And in case you don't know what a mastermind is, ladies and gentlemen, that's where two or more people come together to discuss each individual's problems within their business or life work balance. And somehow there's a third mastermind that comes over the table. And suddenly all the other people, and I've seen this so many times, an idea pops into your head to help the other person. And the idea is almost always genius level. And you sit there and you ask yourself, how did I come up with that? It's a level of consciousness, the
Yes.
group consciousness, that comes together to solve a problem. And I felt incredibly honored that you had me stay. And we kept rotating different groups we were helping and things like that. And that is the power of your events, your live events, and I want to talk a little bit about that. What has come out of some of your your mastermind sessions that you can say really created disruption and cash flow for people? With I know you have NDAs with people, but what were some
Yeah.
of the basic ideas that just popped up and it was like, oh my God, we're better because of that?
Well, that's such a great question, Brad. And yes, well, I would say, the reason I do what I do is because it is for the right people, it's transformational. And
Yeah.
I say people because in deference to what most highly trained professionals, whatever they're involved in, they go take their CE courses, which is more specialized training, what they do. Your spouse, unless you're going on a cruise or something, doesn't usually go with you. So this is typically we just go get our training and specialization of what we do in our business. What we both know, and everybody listening, is that life still involves our family. And so what we really focus on is couples. Yes, obviously there is a big piece that's involved in finance and building a roadmap, a blueprint to get the couple where they want to be, and a lot of that starts with reverse engineering. Back to my title of my last book, How Much Is
Right.
Enough? And we figure that out based on their burn rate. So we reverse engineer and back to what you have today and how do we navigate the market. So that's a piece of it. But here's what I wanted to give to you to your point about the mastermind is that when our couples come together to our community, our tribe, number one, we're so blessed because everybody is like-minded. Like that, it's kind of like the sitcom Cheers, right? You walk in, Norm, everybody knows your name. It's friendly. That's what we have. People, it's like people walk in for the first time and they'll say, "Wow, by noontime, I felt like I was with my friends." Okay, because you can't be authentic and vulnerable, which is a key, if you don't feel safe. So number one, we have to have a place where people feel it's okay to strip the ego badge off. Oh, I'm a doctor. I'm a this or that. Where we always have to look the part, even though there's crap going on in everybody's life. But I have to always look like everything's good. Well, that doesn't help anybody because
Right.
if you try to stay isolated, which is what most of us do, and I'll say for a lot of my life, I stayed isolated. It's like, well, you know what? I should be smart enough to figure this out. I can't show weakness, right? Oh my
Right.
gosh, the worst thing to do is like, no, you can't figure everything out yourself.
Yeah.
And to your point, with the masterminds that we both have been a part of, and I know this happens for our tribe. When I'm there, I know that I come with ideation, or it could be challenges or opportunities, and because I know I'm going to have to articulate the best I can to this small group of people who have no bias, no agenda. They're just there to support each other. That right there gives me clarity. And then yes, the feedback, the blind spots, the things I didn't see. This is
Yeah.
did you so same thing with this is when people come and they feel safe to actually talk about what's really going on. Not all negative. It's always the positives too, but putting the two together and saying for the first time we actually have a game plan and for couples knowing that they're now on the same page because Well, we know as we go through life and we have family and the kids, there's a divide and conquer. But that division is just like, well, we got to get through all these years with our kids until they leave the house, and it's a hustle and bustle time period. And
Yeah.
yes, you're living the life and you're making enough money, but there's never been a really like, well, where does this actually kind of converge, and what's the next part of this life going to be? And you said earlier, people wait until they get there in these different phases of life, and it's like, what? Wow, where did this come from? And if we can give people the opportunity to look ahead to future pace these phases of life, you can better plan for it. It's financial, yes,
Yeah.
but there's other pieces to it too, and that it all has to be part of the process.
I agree with you. I think this is why I like to interview couples on my show who are running a business together because, plain and simple, you need that yin and yang, that male female perspective. And sometimes when you're trying to make a decision for the future of you as a couple, as a unit, married couple with family, those decisions have to be made together very, very quickly. I don't know if you read Tom Peters' Essentials. They're they're divided up into four books, basically, like design, marketing, trends, things like that, that every business owner needs to have. And one of the things that I love is he did something very mind blowing. He had Martha Barletta be the co-author on the trends section. And what was so powerful with this, and this is how your mastermind works, is what I love about this. Martha found out that one of the biggest, like a John Deere tractor manufacturer, she went to speak at a big event and she said, your tractors aren't being bought by the farmer, the man.
Hmm.
That whole decision making process is the wife. And all the distributors and salespeople burst out laughing. And she goes, I want you to go back on Monday and I want you to call your clients who bought you all your products through the years and ask them who decided the color, the make, the
Hmm.
model, which company.
Yeah,
And they all came back embarrassed because it was the wife that
yeah.
was making all the decisions. And this is what a team is about. And this is what a mastermind is about, to awaken to trends and topics that you can actually get involved in before anybody else knows about it. And let's talk about that a little bit because I know there's a secret sauce. I've seen it, and I'm not going to reveal any of it, but there's a secret sauce to how we can invest so that we're not hit with taxes. There's a way that we can invest where it doesn't affect certain other things that we're working on. It's almost like you're creating a separate entity. But the power of that decision making and finding trends rather than fads, I think, is the power of the mastermind and having the right people in your network.
Well, so true. And I think, yeah, part of the power of having a strong, reputable community or tribe is that you are able to attract the hive mind of other people. Well, case in point, I was able to attract you to come down and speak
Right.
because you love to give back and you love a place where there's high level thinking. So when you have that, you can bring great people in. I couldn't bring a solo person in unless I just pay their whole way. So I think yes, understanding trends. So in our case, I believe it is very important from many standpoints to understand really what's happening in the macro world,
Right.
globally, culturally, economically, financial markets. I know for a lot of people, it's a lot of people are just like want to stiff arm that. I get it. And but what I tell people, I say, look, even if these kind of subjects don't seem interesting to you, they are relevant at some level.
Yes.
You don't have to go deep, deep, deep dive. That's why you have a group that kind of works through it together. So you can kind of choose your level of depth of study and understanding. You don't have to do the deep dive because that's where you divide and conquer. So the information is relevant to understand what the trends are. Not to go too deep down that, but we're in a very much of a market business cycle. We're in a long-term secular cycle. You've written about this. We talk about generations. I mean, there's so much that's shifting. The fourth turning is here. I mean, so much is going on that I think a lot of people are not even aware. And
Oh
does that
yeah.
give us a crystal ball? No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't at all. No one has a crystal ball. You can't time anything. But I think what we have to look at in our lives is is doing the best we can to protect what we have and what we value. And again, that doesn't have to, money and wealth and finances is a big part of that, yes.
Yeah.
But what about our health?
Yeah.
What about our culture and our mental health, physical mental health? How are we dealing with that with our family and kids? And not gonna go down your rabbit hole, but but with uh, all of the disconnect with real communication because everybody's using this stuff today and nobody talks anymore, at least
I know.
and so we have all these shifts going on, and I think if we don't look at a macro global level at all these things, we can focus too much on the one thing. And but
Yeah.
that one thing maybe works out, but then all these other areas of our lives, our kids get screwed up because we couldn't give them the attention we thought they'd just figured out for themselves. I mean, there's so much there that I think it's important to have some interest level on some of these dynamics that are happening because it's happening so fast today, Brad. I mean, it's just the light speed is how fast information technology culture shifts. The awakened
Yeah.
nation. I mean, truly, it's where we are.
Thank you. Uh, what I had fun with you having me at your event was the generational communication issues. And I remember some of the people were in the audience with their adult children and they were
Yes.
doing business with them. And they were having trouble communicating with their adult kids who were working in the business simply because they had a completely different way of working that was leveraging technology. And as a boomer myself, you can easily look at that and go, wait a minute, they're lazy or they're this or they're that. And I think I want to thank you. I was so honored to be there. I got them to wake up and realize, oh, it's just a completely different way of working, a different communication style, and a different way of doing everything. And once you begin to do that, there's this sort of everything snaps into place instead of the mentor barking orders. Now it's a conversation where you're both listening back and forth. And it's like, well, why do you do it this way? Well, it's because of this. Or my father told me to do it that way and he was rough
Mhm.
about it. And it's like, well, I don't respond to that. And now you have a different way of communicating and a different way of moving forward. And we do still see the generational issues happening even today. I thought they would always solve all these by now, but they haven't. So let's talk about time. You said, I need more time. What do you mean by that?
Well, time is the one commodity we can't make more of. We can't buy it back, but we can, starting with day one, like today, we can buy more. And I'm talking about discretionary time, free time, to do the things that you have been putting off in life. And a lot of that comes down to really, how much is enough. And once people can have some confidence in measurable milestones as they're going along in life. The travesty in the traditional financial models is that you work hard and you save and you put money in various types of accounts or IRA, tax deferred accounts, whatever. I don't
Right.
care. The whole thing is, you should be disciplined and pile it up. And to that extent, I agree. But the problem is nobody teaches anybody or people are not willing to go down the rabbit hole to learn. Well, as you're saving and being disciplined to put some wealth aside, where are you putting it and what is that money doing? See,
Right.
that's a big missing inflection point. And again, once again, it's nobody's fault. It's like the traditional markets, Wall Street, advisors have always told people, we'll save you on taxes. Just put your money over here. We'll lock it up, and we'll make sure it's all there, nice and safe, and tied in a bow when you decide you want to retire. And then the markets do what? Well, they go up and they go down, and they go up and they go down, and that's what doesn't give people confidence. So what do they do in response to that? Just keep working, keep plugging away. So gaining the ability to understand that you can take more time before your time is up is, I think, a
Yeah.
critical part. And the other piece too is, which is a whole nother segment, which I know you're very fond of, is just many of us are too much control freaks about wanting to put our hands on everything. And
Yeah.
I had to learn this skill set because it wasn't innate to me. Finding the right people, we talked about, complementary skill sets, finding those right people, engaging, empowering, creating desired outcomes, entrusting those people to go to a certain level, getting feedback because nothing's ever perfect on the front end, and giving other people the opportunity to take over tasks, details, things that you, as whatever your position is in your life, business, company, shouldn't be doing. It's not easy because we're not built to do that. We're very much soloists in life, and so it doesn't feel
Yeah.
comfortable. And usually we screw it up at least 3 or 4 times before we even have a chance to get it right. So once we screw it up once or twice, people will say, "Oh, that doesn't work, David. That doesn't work. I tried that."
Yeah.
And I think that's another piece that, like, right now you could devoid yourself of a lot of these stuff that just takes up your day because yeah, I mean it's interesting. We were talking early in the green room, and he said, "Oh, this just came in from Lindsay. That's my executive assistant." I said, "Well,
Yeah.
that's timely. If it were
Yeah.
up to me to get that to you, probably wouldn't have happened." I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
I was like, hey, Lindsay, do we have a bio or something I could use? And she's like, sure. And it was over like in less than 2 minutes. She sent it right over. So speed, money responds to speed, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yes, definitely.
Um, I love this quote from Robert Kiyosaki in his Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, middle class people invest in middle class things. Poor people invest in poor people things.
Yeah.
And that's not an insult. That's just like looking at the data. Just looking at the data. How many poor people own, and I have relatives who are not doing well financially. Everybody in these households has 3 or 4 television sets. So how do you do that? In a huge DVD collection. Middle class people have followed the rule book of what they're supposed to do when it comes to investing and doing certain things. But I found that business owners, truly wealthy business owners, they are people that want to control reality. And we get frustrated. I'm one of those. We want to control our own reality. And we get frustrated when things don't turn out the way we want. So I don't know about you, and maybe you can talk about this. I learned to massage where I want my reality to go. I learned to massage where I want to invest and take care of things because it's the risk. And some of you are listening, you're probably in your late 40s to early 60s. I want to tell you, it's not too late to start building something that creates cash flow. It's about thinking differently. And you're right, David. You said something that most of us have been taught. We hand a pile of money and we keep putting into that pile of money to an investment banker or somebody with their C6 and or Series 6 and Series 7 license, and we entrust them. And the reality is most Americans they found this out. They have maybe $20,000 in their 401k. And that's kind of a disgrace. You can't retire on that. And I learned a long time ago, it's not how much you save to be able to retire or be able to have the freedom to step back from your work. It's how much cash flow you can generate per month from all these investments or side hustles or multiple streams of income, whatever you want to use as the trendy nomenclature. It's a matter of finding the right people too. This is the other thing. This is why I have you on the show because there's a lot of hucksters out there who are selling their high ticket items. Meanwhile, they don't understand the basics of economics. We're still in a very bumpy situation right now, and you have to know what you're doing. So somebody like you, I put on the show because I know if people reach out to you, you're a trusted advisor. You're somebody I trust on the show that has shown results, and your membership has grown through the years because of the results. So let's talk a little bit about that. Because it's not too late, number one. And number two, there's a lot of hucksters out there that aren't really serving people. They take their money and that's it.
Yeah, I call it selling the dream without any substance to it, which is unfortunate. I early in my life, I had to work my way through to, and I'm sure you did too, to find, who are the right people. Typically, we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
just we get, and nothing bad happened early in my life, but I mean, you just work your way through, and I could go back in my mind and I know the pathway till I got to the first people who are really the right mentors, and then you're kind of in a group where now you've got affiliation with good people, just like you talked about when we were in Las Vegas, some 10 years ago. Well, there were good people there. They've been curated,
Yeah.
aggregated by somebody that we trust, and right there, it's just like so you move ahead faster that way. I think too. So yes, you're right. You can't do this by yourself.
No.
So you need to be plugged into other people who have expertise in areas of allocations. You mentioned Robert Kiyosaki, so I would just say, in a nutshell, that with people that are lower income on the scale, middle class, working hard for their W-2 paychecks, barely keeping their head above water. It's hard today. It's harder today. I will grant that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying as a boomer who grew up through uh, the go-go years of after Reagan and Volcker. I mean, the 80s, 90s. Yes, there's dips in the market, but I mean, we've had 40 years going to 2020, which were just lots of upside. So I will give that back, and we are in a tougher place today, but can still be done. And this happens to everybody at every scale of income. Doesn't matter if you're the $2,000 an hour heart surgeon, or you're working for $30 an hour serving customers somewhere else. When you live at or beyond your income level, in other words, going into debt to keep your lifestyle up, there's never a way out of that. I mean, if you keep
Right.
that up, there's never a way out. Our country has done that in a big way, and they think they can get away with it because of the dollar's reserve currency, but that's going to run
Right.
out as well at some point. But what I tell people is, you've got to really know what your lifestyle burn rate is, and that's again one of the things with couples
Yeah.
actually looking at, because the kind of the blessing and curse of making earning a pretty decent income or above average is that if you're in that place in life, you can always go back and typically make more money, to cover
Yeah.
whatever it was, right? And the problem is, we'll keep doing that, and eventually time runs out to where, like, I don't want to keep doing that, yet I haven't done anything. So you've got to at some point invest in assets. These can be
Yeah.
financial. I'm not saying real estate tangible is the only way to go, but assets. You've got to invest in assets. And so even if you're at the lower end, or you're starting out in life and you're younger and you're going, well, David, I don't have money to get involved in real estate. I got it. No problem. Just start with something where you're investing in something. And I'm not opposed to the financial markets. Just go into some index funds till you get
Yeah.
some run rate going, and then you can start to diversify out into other areas as your knowledge base and your curiosity that will drive you to that. That's the way you get ahead in life. You've got to have
Yeah.
assets, and then be able to know how to turn the switch on when you want to go from growth, expansion, net worth to the cash flow. And that's
Right.
what the financial markets don't do. They say, well, we'll put you in stocks and equities, and hopefully we'll raise that up to a point, and then we're gonna move the needle because you can't take any risks, so we'll put you in bonds, and then we'll have a depletion. We'll start depleting. I never want to be in a position where I have to deplete. I'm not against people living their life, but you have to deplete because you didn't create the cash flow. Bad move.
Right.
Bad move.
I agree. Americans, sometimes people look at us like we're just weird to other countries. I hate to say it. And I'll give you a story that blew my mind. And it talks about the leveraging of family. So there was this one guy from the Middle East. His family came over here to have a better life here in the United States. And the only job he could get is working at a fast food place. I think it was Burger King or something like that. And he would drive up to work in a very expensive car. And people are like, wait a minute, you make, minimum wage. What the heck are you doing driving that car? He goes, I have four other brothers. We all pull our money together and we bought real estate
Mm.
and we work as a team. And that allows us to afford, to do a little better than maybe most people. And he says, I never understood Americans where you have this wealth within your family to work together to create something generationally that you could pass on. And that is kind of a thing. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't really have much of a choice. I'm an only child, although I have a stepsister. It's from my dad's previous marriage. Um, we didn't have that kind of family unit. And my other friends who have, four brothers, four sisters, they have been able to establish sort of a way of creating their own dynamic wealth empire. And it started small. It started really small, like a cabin up in the mountains that they rent out. And that's about it. So I like what you're talking about with this because even if you are poor, look around you. And I hate to use the word poor because, that's relative, but that look at me. David, I still make my coffee from home every morning. I don't buy coffee. Um, those tiny little habits, and I know some people laugh at this, like you're going to save what, 1,500 a year not buying coffee, but if you truly are disciplined each month to put that money away, you can build something that you can take that money, and this is a secret word they don't tell you in high school or college usually, unless you're in the financial area of study, and that is leverage. To leverage assets, to leverage the person, your potential with your credit as well.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time, it's going to take discipline, and you're going to have to listen to people like David, but you can do it. We're in a crisis right now. We just had the election. I'm sure you're happy at who was chosen. It's tremendous, David. I love it. Basically, we have a golden age now where we can now realize we can do this with our assets quickly. I
Yeah.
might add. Let's expound on that a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think we're back to the roots of what this nation was built upon, meritocracy. Um,
Yeah,
I'm not going to dig into all the craziness we've seen over the last, 4+ years going back. But we really we're going a bad direction. And for all the things that I understand that people don't like about Trump, he says what he believes, and you never have any lack of understanding where he's coming from, which is to me, bring it. Do I agree with everything or how he says it? No, but you know what?
right.
He's making the right moves, and so this has got to be this work ethic of you can make it in this country.
Yeah,
You don't have to have your hand out and look for all the programs that the government's there to provide the support net, and then some, and then some, and then some. That doesn't do anything for anybody. It's
yeah,
that's where we've got to go, and it's going to be undoubtedly a painful period, but you got to go through it sometime. It's just
yeah,
like, you go to the doctor and he says, if you don't, cut the smoking and drop your cholesterol and get on a treadmill once in a while, your days are
yeah,
numbered. So what do? Is it going to be easy? No, it's going to be painful. This country is going to go through some pain because the
yeah,
direction we were going, it was downhill fast. And
yeah,
so I think that's the message that we can take with whatever our influence is, and even within one's own family, it's like helping our again. I come back to the next gen, the generations coming up that many of them, Brad, that feel very dissolute about their opportunities because they've been just programmed into a mindset that it's not fair, and
right.
you can't do this, and we've got to get over that in this country.
Yeah.
And if we can move that needle and start to shift it the other direction, I mean, gosh, this country has got so much potential to get back on track.
I love what you're saying. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being on Awakened Nation. How do we get a hold of you to get involved? Maybe somebody wants to join Freedom Founders, but how do we work with Dr. David Phelps?
Yeah, just to stay connected. I mean, yes, you can go to the website freedomfounders.com. I do also have a podcast, which I'm grateful that I'm going to have you back on that for the Freedom
Hmm.
Founders podcast. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got books on Amazon. So I love to connect with people at whatever level, right?
Yeah,
We're both people that we love to provide ideally positive influence at whatever level, whether that's working directly or just through other communication media that we
yeah.
utilize. That's the way the world works today.
I love it. Thank you once again, my friend, for being on Awakened Nation. Thank you, David.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brad.
Now, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to keep you on board, as Donald Trump would say. I've been working on my Donald Trump impersonation. It's actually gotten
I
better.
gathered. I gathered.
They shot me. They shot me, David. They shot me. But I survived because I'm Neo from the Matrix. Anyways, I got to ask you my super cool round of questions here that I do at the very end.
Okay.
Um, and let me put out the very first one. How much has faith influenced this journey for you?
I'd say more so in recent years. I've always been a man of faith, but the depth of faith, I think there's times in life where maybe one is not as focused on it and more focused on what we're about. I think it's normal for everybody. But what I've really looked at with my daughter's health issues really brought me to the forefront where I realized, you know what? It's not about what I can do. I want to fix everything, Brad. I want to fix everything, but with a health situation, I don't have the power, all the money, and everything. So having faith, and also, there's times when I think we've seen, a lot of negative things happening globally in the country, and I'm not a my wife and I prepare, but we're not like preppers. So I don't go to that end
Right.
of the spectrum because my belief and my faith is that whatever happens, God's got us. So I don't sweat that level. And I'm not
Yeah.
telling people who do that you're wrong. No, I'm just you can have faith and be a prepper. It's okay. But that's where it lands for me. Okay.
Yeah. Uh, Faith is everything to me. I mean, I wouldn't have accomplished any of the things I've done without God in my life. That's just the way it is, and I love other people who feel the same way. But do you remember the big power outage that happened on the East Coast like 25 years ago or so, 20 years ago? Um, I When that outage happened, I had flashlights, candles, I had meals ready, and all my friends were like, "What are you, some kind of prepper?"
Right.
And they
Right.
they tried to insult me, and I said, "No, I grew up in Pennsylvania," and they were like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said,
Yeah.
"You have to realize in 1981, we're living in the country. We didn't have cable. We had the power would actually go out after a thunderstorm and maybe not go on for half a day, maybe in the morning." I said, this isn't prepping. This is just being prepared.
That's right.
So if you have a couple of meals laying around the house,
Yeah. Well, that's
some
just
flashlights, batteries,
I think that's just some common sense there.
there you
I
go.
don't even call that prepping. I mean that's normal preparedness. How about
There
that?
you go. 100%. My second question is with everything you've done with your daughter's health, your wife, and by the way, your wife is amazing. I remember when she did like a little Bible study group
Mhm.
that Sunday morning at the Freedom Founders Retreat. It was wonderful, and tell her thank you for that.
I will.
Um, uh, what is your favorite memory out of everything you've done, my friend?
Wow. Favorite memory of everything I've done. That's a tough one, Brad. I mean, there's probably a number to say what's my favorite memory. Well, all right. Yeah, here's one. It's in my mind right now. It was favorite memory for me was my daughter uh, coming back to her school after she had gone through her liver transplant and had been out of school for quite some time. I mean months. And she
Right.
came back and she was 12, so put that in context of about middle school, early middle school. And all the kids had lined up in the hallway and had made various celebratory items to in a big wall plaque, welcome home, welcome back, Jenna. And to see her face walking back into the life that she had wanted was removed from, not by her choice, and to be welcomed back into her reality, and to see the look on her face and see how welcoming her schoolmates were for any parent. That's just like you take a big gulp and go,
Yeah.
wow. So that one just comes up to mind a lot.
Wow. Thank you for that. God bless. That's powerful. I mean, I can literally see that. Wow. My third and final question is, do you have a hope for the United States of America?
Mm. Yeah, my hope would be that we could be a nation that remains strong, but strong for the right reasons. That we have leaders in our culture can be that nation shining bright as we have been in years past. Um, to be a nation, of faith, because we have strayed because of
Yeah.
cultural things that we've talked about in the past. Uh, there's just so much opportunity for this country to come together. So I think first and foremost, we've got to come back together again. The divisiveness
Yeah.
has got to be put aside, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the administration and that Trump, for all of his own foibles, foibles not the right word, but I truly believe, Brad, that God puts things, puts people, things, situations in place that we have no understanding as to why. You just go,
Right.
why was that? Or, I'm not going to name any other presidents, but in the past presidents who won elections, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, God, where are you? I mean, that's the wrong. But I'm thinking in some cases, and even this last administration, and I'm not going to go hard on him, but I think the fact that Trump had his first term, and then however you want to look at that election in 2020, doesn't matter at this point. It is what it is. And then we got to have 4 years of a stark contrast. Let's just put it that way, a stark contrast for him to come back. I think we needed that. I think if
Yeah.
he would have had a second term, it wouldn't be nearly even close as powerful as the term could be now. He's coming on hard. It's
Yeah.
tough for people. But you know what? That's what a leader does. When you're convicted about who you are, what not only who you are, but what your convictions are. Trump can't be bought. He
Yeah.
is given up. I mean, why would he even feel the need? Okay, does he have some narcissism? Yeah, probably. Okay,
Yeah.
but you know what? A lot of times leaders do. You got to give him that because he's doing what he does. He didn't need to take a bullet for this
Yeah.
country. He didn't need to be doing any of that. He could be just hanging back, got plenty of money, hanging out with his kids, his grandkids, watching his kids grow up, which he does anyway. But you watched him on that campaign trail. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy was nonstop at 78 years old, just
Yes.
nonstop. And look at him in this first 10 days,
Yeah.
nonstop. Is he not sacrificing? Oh, yes, he is. And his sweet wife, Melania, I mean, God bless her. She doesn't need this. She doesn't need,
No.
she doesn't need this,
No.
but she's got to believe that there's a calling here, that she's willing to sacrifice whatever her nice placid life could be, and it's not,
Okay. Exactly.
So I guess I probably went longer than you wanted me to on that, but that's my feeling.
David, you said a mouthful. I feel the same way. His net worth has gone down.
Yeah,
And I think what has happened is a portion of this country has lost their way. They want the government to take care of everything.
yeah,
And everything morally and spiritually, they project onto the government and say, you need to take care of this. It
right.
was never designed for
Yeah.
that. The government is not your friend. They are a tool that you're supposed to, uh, push their buttons when they're not doing their job. And the federal government only has two jobs: to protect us from the bad people who can take away our fortunes and our physical life. That's their job. And to protect our borders. That's the only job the founding fathers gave the federal government. So anything above and beyond that is, I'll borrow a Yiddish word, and that is to create political mishigas so that they can, enact laws that'll create power. And Trump has come along to reverse all that. And so, we have 4 years and we'll see how this goes. But I look forward to it. I feel for the first time in many, many years that I'm relieved that we have somebody at the helm
Yeah.
that is going to get us back to real American values, which was always about the individual. And I love that.
Well,
Thank you, my friend.
there's no question today as to where's the president, who is the president. I think it's pretty obvious.
That is true. And on that note, my friend, thank you once again for your insights here on Awakened Nation. Thank you, David. I appreciate you
It
being
was a
on the
lot of
show.
fun, Brad. Great to connect with you.
You bet. Hey, everybody, don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to have another extraordinary guest here on Awakened Nation. Until then, bye bye for now. Take care. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success is because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.